Everybody can hear us. The session is now being recorded. So good morning, everybody. Welcome along to the first webinar of 2021. Seemed like yesterday we were doing the last of 2020. So I hope you've all had a good Christmas break and we're getting through this third lockdown. So welcome to today's Fidelity Payment webinar. Now, guys, just a bit of background on this. Juliet and I have decided that we'd like to open up the floor to more of our contacts within BIBA. Fidelity Payment are one of our associate members, and they're here today to take you through card payment security. And we just feel we can add some sort of business positivity, I suppose, some business advice when it comes to not just insurance and the cases that you're writing. So without further ado, as you can see from your screen, we've got Ben, Rafi and Simi with us from Fidelity Payment. So good morning, guys. Ben, if you're leading action, if you'd like to come off mute and just check we can hear you okay.
Can you hear me now?
Got you. That's super loud and clear. Guys on the floor, if you can just check with me that you can hear and let me know through the chat, that would be super. And Ben and chaps, over to you guys. So good morning and thank you for joining us.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So my name is Ben Cohen. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about Fidelity Payment and card payments. Let me just introduce you to the panel. So myself, Ben Cohen, I'm the Managing Director here at Fidelity Payment. Simi Rosen, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about the sales side of Fidelity. I suppose you could say more of the promotional side of the product. And Rafi Dines, who's going to be Rafi Katz. Rafi Dines is a different member of Fidelity Payment. We'll be very happy that you got a mention today. Rafi Katz, who is our network and security analyst, who is an expert in PCI card payment security as well. And seeing there's a huge amount of card payments goes through the insurance sector, a lot of it over the phone, maybe not so secure. We're going to try and help you guys get up to speed with your payment security today in a very short space of time. So just going to cover the learning objectives today, just to give you an idea of the kind of 3 points that you could probably put down as a learning objective. So identifying some of the risks of taking card payments discussed earlier, understanding the PCI expectations on firms, insurance brokers in the areas of card payments. And again, besides identifying the risks of card payments, and actually looking at ways to make things a little bit more secure. So it's not just about identifying risks and living with it, but we'll show you some of the solutions available to try and make card payments that much more secure. So let me get started with a brief introduction on Fidelity Payment. So our story so far, we started in 1996 in New York by a fellow called Benjamin Weiser, who set up business. We launched in Europe, mainly in the UK, in 2010. We're now based in King's Cross and Manchester, and we've got, within that, with King's Cross, we've got 2 offices, and Manchester, we've got an office of 60 staff in the UK. And we provide card payments to roughly around 4,000 businesses across the UK. A lot of them in the insurance sector, but very different sectors. 1 second, let me just tell something. Okay, but across various different payment sectors. So e-commerce, insurance is a very big area for us, hospitality, and as well as varied areas where you'll see card machines, e-commerce. But Simi is going to speak to you more about the different payment facilities we provide. Just as a side point, if you've got any questions, just put them in the text box, and Neil, our host, will pick them up and ask them to me. So the idea is, as we go along, ask us questions. We will have some time at the end for questions, hopefully, but we're happy to make this more an open discussion rather than just us talking. So just moving on, why do businesses use Fidelity? Typically, we offer a fantastic saving on card processing fees. We normally aim for around 20%. Next day funding available to Fidelity Payment clients. So that means that funding comes into your account quicker. Various payment solutions. So we've got lots of different ways we can offer clients to take payments. It's not just what you'd see in the shop as just a card machine. And then it's the specialist advice that we give, things that we're going to be talking about today in terms of helping you with your security and payment solutions to make it as secure as possible. So those are kind of like what you consider our USPs. Just talking a little bit about Fidelity and the insurance sector. So some of you might recognise us. Okay, hopefully a few of you on today are our clients as well. But those that aren't might have heard of us from promotion we've done in the insurance sector. But mainly, our main exposure has been at the BIBA exhibition, BIBA show every year. It happens in July, May or June. I'm sure plenty of you are normally there. Shame it didn't happen in 2020. It's something we always look forward to. Here's a picture of one of our stands. We normally do give out alcohol, as it's BIBA seems to fit very well. A lot of the insurance sector there, and they're there to have a good time. So we try and facilitate that as much as possible. So we first kind of got introduced to the insurance sector around 6 years ago. That was the first year we exhibited at BIBA, and that's when we realised how much of an industry focuses around card processing, and it's very underserviced. I don't think there's another company in the UK that knows more about card processing within the insurance sector. And as I say, we started at BIBA. A huge proportion of payments go through card, and I think a lot of traditional banks don't have a good understanding of how the insurance sector works. They still see it as a very risky industry for some reason. That's one of the things we're expert in, is helping insurance brokers get approved by acquirers at fairly low processing rates. We're trying our best to improve the knowledge within the sector, and we worked with a lot of insurance softwares up and down the country that you guys will use as your everyday management system within your broker. We've had a huge success with it. So in the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the softwares we use. So that's kind of the area that we focus on BIBA. And as you're aware, we are BIBA members ourselves. So let's talk a little bit about some of our insurance partnerships. So as I mentioned, we're BIBA's recommended provider, and we actually process the payments for BIBA too. So when you pay your BIBA membership by card, or when you pay to maybe to exhibit at BIBA, that actually goes through the Fidelity payment system. Actress, one of the biggest property management softwares in the UK. It's a long-standing integration and partnership. Actress users will probably have seen various promotions by Fidelity along the solution, the ability to take card payments directly through the software. OpenGI is another one to talk about. SchemeServe, probably one of the smaller softwares. Transactor, which I think recently got bought by OpenGI, but used to be a completely separate partnership. So there are a fair few. Neverdare, which is a fairly new one in the UK, as well as another Fidelity partnership. So Simi is going to talk a little bit more in a few minutes about these insurance partnerships and how that solution actually works. So just to move on and introduce you to Simi, he's going to talk to you about the different solutions and what we have to offer as a card processing business. Over to you, Simi.
Thank you, Ben. Similar to Ben, I guess if anyone's got any questions, just put it in the side chat, and I'll try to pick up as I go along. At this stage, I'm just going to run through some three basic ways of taking card payments. The first one is card present, face-to-face transaction. What we classify as a motor transaction is any payment taken over the phone, and then we have an e-commerce transaction, which is online, or a pay by link. So if Ben, you want to move over to the next slide, we can just talk about each one a little bit more in detail. PDQ machine it's a card present environment, where most secure way of taking payments, because it requires the customer to key in a 4-digit number. Also, yes, you can do contactless, but it is still classified as the most secure way of taking payments. There's different options depending on locations, necessities of the business, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, 3G. And as we know, the best solution for PDQ machine is a high street broker, I would say, a broker which, it has customers. I know at the moment, a lot of brokers probably won't have clients coming in, but if it's, clients walking in on a high street, that would probably be your most, I guess, only solution to have a PDQ machine. Other than that, we're going to come on to the next slide, coming up. But essentially, anyone who doesn't have a face-to-face environment should really be using a virtual terminal. Just to talk a little bit about virtual terminal, yes, it's the least secure way of taking a payment. Reason being, it's a payment which is over the phone. You don't know who's at the other end of the line. You don't know who's got that card details. Maybe staff are writing it down. So the solution is a virtual terminal, which I'm sure most of you have, whether that's on an integrated platform or non-integrated platform, but it gives you the ability to track transactions. So you don't need any, different terminals, has it gone through, has it not gone through? It's pretty straightforward. All your transactions are all in one platform. I guess some of the other features as well is when you need a integration from, an insurance software, like Ben mentioned earlier, some of the softwares which we're going to touch on, the way it's going to work is going to run through a virtual terminal. Again, if you have clients which are reoccurring of commercial insurance, you have clients which are coming back to you yearly, you store their card details in a secure manner through a tokenization. That's all secure via the virtual terminal. Again, integrated solution and also added functionality. So I know I've been speaking to some brokers which, for example, don't want their staff issuing refunds. What they can do is they can set certain functionalities on depending on the gateways and so on, where they can have multiple users, multiple locations, all under one platform with different levels and different abilities for users and salespeople and so on. We'll come on to more the virtual terminal as we discuss the integration a bit more in depth. But going on to e-commerce, it's something which obviously coming way more popular in today's world. Online payment gateway. You need a gateway to accept the card details, process that transaction. A pay by link option is also classified as an e-commerce transaction. I know some of the personal lines brokers aren't so keen because they want to just get that deal over the line. They don't want to start sending out pay by links, but it is coming more common in the sort of sector to start sending out links, which Ben will touch on later. You can send it via SMS and so on. Now, the main benefit of sending out pay by link or an online gateway is that there's something called 3D Secure, which means that Visa and MasterCard have got a security set up. The bank have a security set up, which means that any chargebacks, the liability is not really on yourselves. Whereas when you're taking a payment over the phone, the chargebacks, I'm sure you guys know what a pain it is to deal with. But it starts becoming a little bit of a fight between yourselves and the bank to see, who's actually going to win that case. When it's online, it's much more liability on the bank, and there's more chance that you're actually going to win that chargeback. Pretty straightforward. I think everyone sort of knows how they currently take card payments, but it's just good to sort of get a brief idea of the options which are out there. I guess going on to the next slide, I'm going to hand over to Rafi just to talk to everyone a little bit more about the PCI. Oh, okay, sorry. Just some of the sort of softwares which currently have integrated payments. So we've got CDL, SSP, SchemeServe, Applied, Actress, OpenGI. Actress, as Ben mentioned, is, we have a great relationship with them. We've been working them for a long time. OpenGI, again, through a RealX gateway, it's someone we've done quite a bit of work with. Applied, SSP. If anyone who currently uses CDL, we've been in talks to them for quite a while, and I'll be sort of keen if you can just put in the notes on the side that you currently use them. We do have some brokers which are using CDL it's a non-integrated platform, but I'm really keen to sort of see if there's been any sort of people on this who currently use CDL and just have a chat with them afterwards would be great.
Simi, if I can just kind of add to that, sure. Just really push that point home. CDL is a insurance-based software that seem very, very hesitant to do any work with anyone aside from WorldPay, which means that for a lot of brokers, we've either got to have non-integrated payments or pay exceptionally high rates. Our email addresses will be at the end of this slideshow. I think we could get sent around as well. Even if you don't want to comment on this webinar, if you're a CDL customer, we're keen to hear from as many of you as possible, because the more of you that make more noise about it enables us to push CDL a little bit more to open up their software and allow fully integrated solutions for everyone.
Yeah, I guess just to touch on some of the benefits of an integrated solution, everything's in one platform. So when you reconciliation, for example, you want to match up your accounts and your card payments to make sure everything's matching up. It's all under it's all via your software. One platform is a big one. So I know a lot of brokers, their staff, they don't want them logging off, especially now, for example, COVID, a lot of people working at home. If it's all an integrated platform, they don't need to log into their virtual terminal. They don't need to log into a different system. Whatever management software they're using, whatever insurance software they're using, essentially it's on there under one platform. And then what's really beneficial is the reporting tool, which gives you the capability to pull reports via the software to see how you're tracking, see what payments and so on. So yes, there are some extra costs from some of the softwares themselves in terms of understanding how the integration will work, but it's pretty much, I would say we push all of our brokers, which we speak to try to get on the integrated platform as much as possible. Ben, on to the next one, if that's okay.
So just to introduce you to Rafi, who's going to talk to you a little bit about PCI and card security. Rafi, you ready for us?
Yep. Right, so good morning, everyone. So PCI DSS is the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. It was established in 2004, and it's governed by the PCI Council. Who established it? Who's in charge of it? It's the major card brands. Some more common, we've heard of them before: Visa, MasterCard, Amex. Others not so common to see, especially in the UK. That's Discover and JCB, the Japanese Credit Bureau. And the whole purpose of them establishing this is they want to protect cardholder data. Obviously, they're the ones ultimately who are the money is flowing through them. They step down to the banks. The banks step down to yourselves as the merchants. So whenever there's problems, whenever there's issues being caused, it goes all the way. The problems financially go all the way back up to the top. So they banded together in 2004 to create a standard which is governed, as I said, by the council. And this is really, the purpose of this is to protect cardholder data. So they've created different levels, which we'll see on the next slide, where merchants, it doesn't make a difference how much money you're transacting. They've decided that it's going to be based on how many transactions you do. So if you've done level 1, which is the highest level, if you're doing 6 million plus transactions a year, it doesn't make a difference if they're all for 1p each. If you're doing 6 million transactions, then you have to be externally audited. What does this mean? It means that somebody comes in, you've got to answer depending on your situation, you have to answer a number of questions, and then you'll be signed off. Whereas if you're levels 2, 3, and 4, they give you the right to do it yourself. You can do what's called a SAQ, a self-assessment questionnaire, and you fill this out online, and you can certify yourself that way. Now, a lot of people view level 1 as a bit of a pain because now I've got to do it externally. I'm now going to start paying money for people to come. But the actual truth of it is, it just shows how successful you've become, because it means that Visa, MasterCard, they're viewing you as big enough that you're generating enough money that we need to be careful, and that it means you've got extra securities in place. But again, it's only symptomatic of success to be able to hit that level of transactions. So in reality, it's actually quite a good thing. I will say that level 2, when you get high, the difference between level 2, 3, and 4 is very minor. But when you get to the higher numbers, let's say 4, 5 million plus transactions, there is a chance that they will ask you to have your own certification externally assessed. So you'll do it yourself, and then you'll pay somebody else to come in and do it. It's much cheaper. But again, it shows as you grow and as you're getting closer and closer to level 1, it shows that they're taking your security much more seriously, because they know how much you're worth and how much business you're generating for everyone. So if we go on to the next slide. So let's start. It's all about cardholder data. This is what it's concerned with. PCI doesn't concern itself with direct debits, interbank stuff. PCI is only about controlling cardholder data. So what actually is classed as cardholder data? So as we can see on our demo credit card over here, you've got the cardholder, you've got the card number itself, those 16 digits. You've got the expiry date, and you have the cardholder name. Those 3 are what's called cardholder data. And in certain circumstances, as we'll see on the next frame, that they can be stored in certain circumstances. We have the next thing, which is the 3 numbers on the back of the card. If we're using Amex, 4 numbers on the front, that can never be stored. There is no, with the exception of when you're actually taking the transaction itself, you are never allowed to have that number written down. You are never allowed to have that number stored. And the general attitude that PCI takes towards card handling data, as we have the points, is rule 1, don't talk about card data. And the second rule of PCI is don't talk about card data. Card data is something that never, ever should be mentioned except for when it needs to be. And this actually includes repeating back numbers on the phone. So as Sydney said, as Ben said, insurance brokers are taking a lot of payments over the phone. And quite often when the guy's reading it to you, just want to clarify it back to him. From a PCI perspective, this shouldn't be done. Why? Because the guy next to you could be writing down the numbers. As you're reading them back to him, you're reading back all the information. You're reading back the number, the name, the expiry date, and you're reading back those three numbers on the back. There's nothing stopping him writing those numbers down. And now all of a sudden, somebody's got card details which they shouldn't have. So the best advice in those situations, if you miss a number, just say, do you mind repeating that? Can you confirm that back to me, rather than repeating it back out loud? Rule number 3 is just don't write it down. Your cardholder data should never be put in writing, whether that's, as rule 4 says, email, WhatsApp, whatever it is, numbers shouldn't be written down ever. So if you go on to the next slide, you'll see a nice summary of what actually is considered, a nice chart of when and where you can save data. But just before we get there, you'll see that on the card itself, so we have 16 digits as the card number. If you go just back one, so you'll see that the first 6 numbers and the last 4 numbers, those are allowed to be stored. There's no problem behind storing those numbers. Why? The first 6 is just the bank identifier, and the last 4 are to enable you to identify themselves. So if you're doing that, as we'll see on the next slide on that chart, that's fine. So you can see we've got the list of the cardholder data. We have the primary account number, that's the long number, shortened to PAN. That's the 16-digit card number on the front. We have the name, the service code, which is the magnetic strip, and we have the expiration date. So if you have that full 16-digit number written down, it has to be secured in some way. This usually requires encryption. The best bet is, if you're doing it, then yeah, you really have to have that properly encrypted. And if you have that number stored, then everything, all the other information must be encrypted as well. Whereas, as we just said, if you just have the first 6 and the last 4 numbers, then everything else is fine. You can have the cardholder name, you can have the expiration date. Why? Because it's not actionable without that 16-digit card number. But we can see there's a second category called sensitive authentication data. And included in that is those 3 numbers on the back, those 4 numbers on the front for Amex. Under no circumstances can those numbers ever be stored. That's it. There's no exceptions except for that time when you're taking the transaction. The second that transaction is complete, that data must be destroyed. There are no exceptions given for that. So if we go on to the next slide. So as mentioned, a lot of payments are taken by phone in the insurance industry. Equally popular is the fact that most calls are recorded for quality and insurance purposes. Right, so this can pose a problem from a PCI perspective. Why? Because you're taking card payments over the phone, which means the guy is reading out the card numbers for you. So what do? Because you now have a nice recording with everyone's details. So there are a couple of options. Option 1 is to encrypt the phone calls, which means that your encryption storage, where you're storing all your phone calls, is being kept fully secure, and it's only accessible to people who legitimately need access to it. And that access should be documented, which means that every time you need to listen to a call recording, I need to say, why am I doing it? The other option is to manually pause the recording. So we get to the bit of the payment, we have the whole nice talk, this is what I want, right, let's get to the payment. Okay, I'm now going to pause the recording. So obviously this is a manual process. The question is, who's checking on this? It's the easiest solution to, but who's controlling it? Are we making sure it's getting done? Is there quality assurance? Normally, typically, as it says there on the screen, that 1 to 5% of calls would need to be checked, depending on the size of the business, would need to be checked to verify if an auditor came down and said, I want to see that you're pausing it, he'd expect to see between 1 and 5% of the calls are actually being verified, that they are being paused at the right places. So that's some more insurance specific, but let's just go to some general security tips, because that's what PCI is about. PCI is about just making sure that your information is safe. And a lot of it is logical. When you step away from your computer, which obviously has sensitive data on it, just lock it. Make sure your computer is locked at all times. Don't reuse your passwords. Why shouldn't you reuse passwords? Because when you reuse passwords, all it takes is a lot of people, they reuse their password for everything. They've got one password for their Gmail, and it's the same password for their work login, and it's the same password for their Tesco login, for example. All it takes is somebody to get hold of your Tesco login, and they can reasonably guess that this is also going to be the same as your Gmail. which means that the more you share your password around, the more likely it is that it will be compromised, and the more likely it is that they'll be able to get into your email, and they'll be able to get to your work email. And from there, it just becomes a cascade of further and further problems. Another thing to be careful of, which by the way is a reason for doing integrations, because when you're using one single platform, that means you've only got one password to remember. All the information will be stored in one place, which means you can make that password more complicated. It also means that you also don't have to deal with other people. I only have to deal with this one company, and I have to make sure that they're secure, but everything else is that company's problem. Another thing to be careful of is security questions. When they ever ask you, do you want to reset your password? Great, let's do your mother's maiden name. Let's do your pet's name. So when you're using social media, a lot of people will be posting, oh, I took Fluffy the cat for a walk today. Well, someone can look at your social media and say, okay, I now know the name of his pet. I know the name of the street he grew up on. Let's see what happens if I press forget password, reset his email, and now I can answer the question. Why? Because of it's called social engineering, where I've used your social media post to be able to compromise your private data. So it's just basic advice of being very careful with when you use your passwords and use your security questions to make them non-obvious things. And a good piece of advice for passwords is if you make it a sentence. For example, you just say, my chair at work is grey. All of a sudden, you've got a nice long password, which is very easy to remember because it's just a sentence, and it makes it much harder to hack. And if you look at that link I've got on the screen there, security.org, how to secure my password, it's a very neat website which shows you, it lets you type in your website and it tells you how to type in your password, and it'll tell you how long that password will take to break. It can range from your seven-digit password, 7-character password, can be almost instantaneous. You see there's this list of frequently used passwords. This is collated of when they've done global surveys, these are the passwords that people use most often. And all of those will be instant. If someone trying to get into your account will be able to get through every single one of these instantly with no delay at all. Even a 7-digit password, 7-character password, can take as little as 20 minutes. But simply adding a special character, for example, just putting a full stop on the end, can change that from 20 minutes to 11 years. So it's all about just when you're doing passwords, especially for business critical things, just make sure that you're putting in characters to make it harder, which obviously makes it harder for you to remember, but it massively increases the security that you have.
Sorry, just to jump in. Sorry, we've just got a question here on the side. Someone's asking if the auto system fails, it may be necessary to do a manual transaction, manual payment as an exception. Can you explain a little bit more about the acceptable security of call recordings? I think that's quite common. So, if people do have call recordings and they turn off the so on, is there any sort of leeway with that? Is there any?
Yeah, 100%. So I'll say this way. PCI in itself is very strict. The rules are there are no exceptions. They don't give exceptions. So I mean, even in Corona now, a lot of people have said, we've changed our whole way that people are working from home. As far as the PCI Council are concerned, they don't care. Card data security is card data security. So if your automated system stops working and you have to take the payment manually, you'll have to have a policy in place to say, okay, great, what happens when it stops working? Let's do a risk analysis when it stops working. How are we going to take the payment? So you'll take the payment. You might have to write it down. You'll be typing into a virtual terminal, but you have to make sure that information gets destroyed as soon as possible. And in case of a recording, you'll have to manually stop the recording. It's up to you. There will be no exceptions to if the system stops working. That's just how it works. Basically, the way it would work is if you have a breach and they come down and investigate and they find that this incident happened, even as a one-off, you could be doing 5 million calls a year and you have this one-off breach, that will be enough for them to say, look, you didn't follow the rules and all the consequences of that will follow. So there are no exceptions, and the best thing to do is have policies in place for when events like this happen. However negligible they are, however unlikely they are, it's best just to have a policy in place to have thought about what are we going to do in this situation. All right, that's my piece, so I'll be passing back to Ben now.
Hi, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about one of the solutions we've developed, which will help you significantly in combating any security risks taking payments over the phone. So just moving on to the next slide. There we go. So the solution we've got is something called Blink 360, which is our own software. that we developed. I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to do a demo in a moment and show you how exactly it works and some of the benefits of actually using it. So if you give me a moment to just switch my screen.
While you're doing that, Ben, there's just, I don't know if you've noticed, I've just sent a question across, guys. Someone just asked us a question from the floor. With a card machine, are we obliged to send the customer's card slip out to them?
I'll take that question, Ben, while you're sort of finding the blink.
Excellent.
So, I mean, the question is, in what environment are you using a card machine? So any payment over the phone, you really shouldn't be using a card machine. Once you've taken that payment over the phone, you're not sort of obliged to send that back to them, but people do want a receipt. Whereas if you're using a virtual terminal, so if it's a face-to-face environment, yes, you will give them a receipt. If it's a virtual terminal, they'll get a receipt automatically. So, that's one of the reasons why we push payments over the phone should really all be done by a virtual terminal, whether it's on an integrated platform or non-integrated platform. As soon as it's over the phone, we recommend the virtual terminal.
Thanks, Sammy. And Ben, just before you get into your flow, there's one further question come from Bianca. I was under the impression that pause and resume recording was no longer acceptable for PCI DSS. Is that the case?
As far as I know, that is not the case. In fact, I was discussing it with one of the QSAs, one of these qualified security assessors yesterday, and he said, as far as he's concerned, as long as the appropriate controls are in place, meaning that when you are trying to do you have policies in place and they are enforced. The reason they don't like them so much is because they're quite hard to enforce. To make sure people are doing them. If you have the correct, appropriate policies in place, as far as I'm aware, it's still an acceptable form. Although, Bianca, if you want to reach out to me at the end, my email address will be posted. We can talk about it and we can look into it more.
That's super, Rafi. Thank you. And thanks for the tour of the office. That was brilliant. Love that. Yeah. Back over to you, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, no, so the people around me, I think they're so quiet. All of a sudden, you get on the call and they're busy picking up the phones, making lots of noise. So yeah, it's I'm now in private office, so you won't hear any background noise. Apologies about that. Just to talk to you a little bit about Blink 360. So every single Fidelity customer gets an account with Blink, and this does very many different functionalities. I'm not going to spend a long time talking about all of them because we have so many, and because we could be here for the next hour or day talking about it. But there are a few things here I wanted to talk to you about. So as you can see, there's a few different functions that it offers. Taking a payment, pay by link, direct debits, which is a completely separate a topic. We're not going to touch on that today, maybe another time. Gives you the ability to view transactions, reporting, request features, manage users, contact, and obviously look at your whole account with us and see different data on it. The main thing I wanted to show brokers that are on this webinar today is the ability to take a payment. So we've got the straightforward virtual terminal, which is Simi discussed earlier, and Rafi's talked about this. You'd have to take a card payment over the phone, put card details into the system yourself. So it's the most of transactions, not very secure, so best to be avoided. And the perfect solution is to send out a pay link, right? So this is actually where we send a link to the customer. Now, I know that most broker insurance software like Actress and like OpenGI don't have this function. So if PCI is becoming a big headache, taking payments over the phone or something you just don't want to be doing anymore, the best way to do it is send out a pay link. And this, this can be done with this software. So let's say, for example, this was Fidelity payment. I'm going to send a payment to, I sent it to myself, my details there, make it nice and quick. So you've got the ability to send it to an email address and or a mobile phone. You can put the policy insurance, the policy number there in there. So that might be the reference number for the invoice or for the policy. You can give the ability to the customer to pay the amount. Now, in most cases, if they're paying an invoice, you probably don't really want them to do that because they can put any amount. What's probably better is if the invoice is, let's say, £382.97. That would be a really cheap car insurance quote, wouldn't it? I wish mine was that cheap. Either way, £382. You can put that in there. You can also allow the customer to do repeat payments. So in theory, if you wanted to accept payments over 10 months, you can do that as well. So you can put, let's say, a 10-month cycle in there, and you can see it calculates the amount each payment is going to be. I know that tends to be less common in the insurance sector, where monthly payments, probably done by close brothers or on the other, a premium credit. And then you can add a note to describe the payment is for. So let's say you put in car insurance, and then you can send that, and the customer will receive a link to make the payment. I'll just show you what that link actually looks like. I'll just switch my screen a moment, so that should come through. I'll just share my screen again. A moment. Switch the screen. So the customer will have received the ability to pay here. You've got a simple link to click, and this, having sent it on a mobile phone number as well, they've received a link by text as well. So they can click on this from the mobile phone on email or text or on the computer. Various different ways of doing it. That is probably the most secure way to take a payment over the phone, because you're not really taking it over the phone. What happens is clicking on this link will then take you to a payment gateway. So let me just flick back to my internet browser. So that's taken us to, the link has taken us over here, and it gives a customer, so this is now the customer looking at their internet browser, they put the payment in, they then go through 3D Secure and everything else, and it's as secure as a chip and pin payment. Obviously, you've got no problems of potential fraud and PCI issues, as no card information has been shared, and obviously gives a customer the feeling they're not passing the details over the phone, which is another good thing. Now, one of the other things you can do on this this platform is to actually track the payments. So once the payment's been sent out, you can actually see whether they've been paid. So all these sample payments that we've sent out in the past and other demos, you can see that they're all unpaid, obviously, because they're demos. You've got the ability to resend it or to cancel it, maybe. So if a customer hasn't paid, you can either put in a different, you can edit it, put different details in, or resend it via the same mobile number or the same email address, and just click send again. So sorry, I need to just obviously, we're going to send it via an SMS or via an email or just one of them, and send it out like that again. So this is one of the functions that we, this is probably the most relevant function to the insurance sector. This is the most relevant function to the insurance sector, and this allows secure payments to be a lot more secure. Let me just switch one more time for the last time today. I'm going to switch back.
While you're switching, Ben, sorry, just had a question come in which will pick up. They're asking, does the broker get a statement of the links, pay by links and so on sent out? Ben touched on it before. I mean, there's a lot of ways to track the payments on the Blink 360. Everything will be in a monthly statement as well, but you can constantly track. There's a lot of analysis on the Blink 360 page as well. Just to add one point as well is that obviously you can make it logos from your own business. So it won't be a Fidelity logo, so they'll actually know that it's coming from your own business.
That's right. So you've got the ability to customize it when you're logging on and when you're not, and when it goes out to third parties. Now, obviously, it's very secure. There are no pay links with most insurance-based software, so something you can use alongside. Let's say if you're taking payments through Actress, but you wanted to take payments via pay by link, you could use this as well and reconcile it separately with Actress or CDL or something else. As mentioned, the payments are trackable, no PCI exposure. And one of the important things is you can have various users. So you can set different users within the company, within the insurance broker to have different permissions. Some to just take payments. Obviously, you don't want anyone within, say a new employee to be able to refund to a card, which is obviously quite a big risk, because an employee in theory could go rogue and refund 10, 20, 30,000 pounds to their own card if they got full permission. So you've got to be careful to make sure it's set up, not giving permissions to everyone to make unlimited refunds, which is a really important point. Just move on. Just check what the next slide is. So reporting is it gives you the ability to show where the links be sent out, and then there's a whole reporting piece that shows the acquiring side of it and the payment gateway side of it, which we haven't got time to show through today because I'm aware that the time is running out. We've still got a couple other things to discuss, so I'm going to move over to Simi quickly. I'm going to talk about the card processing rates and the costs and where the savings can be made.
Sorry, just Maria put in something was too fast. I'm not sure if you want to just put in there what was too fast. I'm happy to sort of go over anything. And get
I think that was just a demo, Simi. I think it was just a little bit quick. So don't worry, Maria. We'll
okay.
yeah,
I mean, just on that point for brokers, we do constant demos for all of our clients. We're happy to loop in anyone else for Blink 360 demo. We launched it about 2 months ago, so it's something which we're sort of bringing to the market and happy to run through a one-on-one demo. We do actually do sort of webinars like this where we go through it. So that's something where the emails afterwards, you can be in contact with myself or Ben to sort of set yourself up with a demo. So I'm happy to run through that with anyone. Just to touch on a few card processing rates. One of the everyone gets a statement monthly. You get statements for hundreds of things, and one of the extra things which come in is your card payment statements. We're not really sure what's on there. We don't know what they mean. We don't know how to read them. It's really important. Just a few key points to look out for. One of them is card not present fees. So as you know, most of you are taking payments over the phone. A lot of providers charge a non-secure rate or a hidden premium charge, and you're not sure what it is. You think everyone's getting charged that, but essentially you shouldn't be. PCI charges should be around about the £10-15 mark, up to £25. As Rafi said, obviously you need to be PCI compliant, but besides the fact that from a compliance point of view, a lot of providers will add on a percentage. So you might think you're on 1% for a transaction, but actually because you're PCI non-compliant, they add on a 0.25%. So you're actually paying 1.25%. General savings, especially in today's times where everyone's trying to save costs, it's really important to constantly see what's out there, see, are you getting a good deal? Are you up to date in terms of the integrations? Are you up to date in terms of the pay by links? Are you up to date in terms of your costs? It's something which I think we can definitely help out with and talk to you about. Again, the next one is software integrations. It's something which we're, like Ben mentioned earlier, there are not a lot of providers which specialize in insurance and really want to spend time like ourselves to understand it. And to talk to as many brokers as we can to see what their needs are so that we can try put them in the right direction. We had someone call in the other day, and they were moving sort of software, and we actually put them in the direction of the right software for them with an integrated solution. So it's really important that we can try to talk to as many of you as possible. Send us your statement for a pricing audit. Ben's going to come on to email afterwards. My email on there. I'm more than happy to pick up with anyone. Exclusive BIBA member offer, so free next day funding, which means any payment which is taken today will be in your account. So anything taken up until 2 a.m. will be in your account 9 a.m. next working day. We can give exclusive rates for BIBA members, which we've already had quite a bit. As soon as we became associate member, we've had quite a bit of traction from that front. So it's just really important that you sort of get in contact and talk to the right people to see. Obviously, it's not obligation to sign up straight away, just to see what's out there and to see how we can help or see if there's any solutions we can give you sort of moving forward. Yes, back to you, Ben. Thanks a lot. Just over here, I've just pulled quickly a review I recently done for a client. So current MSC stands for monthly service charge. They're currently paying £14,269 a month. Fidelity Fidelity monthly service charge is £9,737. They're saving close to £4,500 a month, which is 31% saving. This was actually a well-pay statement. They had been with them, I think, for 2 years, which, they hadn't looked at the rates. They hadn't seen what was out there. A lot of it was premium charges. So obviously I can't give sort of the client's name and share details, which I would like to, but their headline rate looked extremely good. They said to me initially, the first conversation, they were on good rates. As we went into a little bit more, we explained everything. And, I think we're in the process of sort of moving them over, and hopefully they'll be able to see, £4,500 saving a month. So it's just something really important to really sort of, be on top of. And as I say, my email will be there. So please get in contact afterwards. Ben.
Thank you, Simi. As mentioned, look, this is something we're happy to take care of for you. Insurance brokers, we know you're busy people. We've dealt with a lot of insurance brokers in the past. Anyone that hasn't checked their card processing rates for a number of years, make sure you get in touch with us as soon as possible. And if you have checked them recently, I'm sure we can still make a very good saving for you. Just to finish off the presentation and give you a little bit of information what you could probably include in your reflective statement. So we covered today methods of accepting cards, security risks of phone payments, PCI compliance for phone payments, e-commerce, and then also solutions to include the card security. And on a last note, if you wanted to take note, I don't know if Niels, you plan to send around the presentation, I don't know, but our email addresses are on here. Obviously some pictures to remember us by, so obviously my picture is fantastic pictures. You've got the other two as well, which is a shame. But you've got the email addresses there. Neil, are the slides going around?
There certainly are, Ben. We obviously record this. You'll forward us the actual finalised presentation, and it is posted to the website in the next 24 hours. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, fine.
Okay, I'm just going to run through a few questions here. I'll just sort of direct them to the right people. So I'm going to start with the first one. So over here, we've got, I work alone and take all my payments by phone at present. I stop the recording when the card payments are taken. I also destroy all the slips that are printed off on a daily basis. Am I compliant? Rafi, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So it's a bit of a nuanced question because for all you know, you might not have to destroy your slips. If your slips are printed out and they're only saying the last 4 digits of the credit card number, then there's no reason to be destroying them in the first place. That being said, am I compliant? Being compliant for PCI isn't just a matter of one or two of the points. Each person has to evaluate exactly which of the questionnaires they have to fill out. All this information is freely available on the PCI Council website, and you have to be compliant for every single one of those controls. So, for example, if the biggest type is called category D, and there's 380 odd controls, whereas the smaller ones can only have 30 odd controls. So you destroy all the slips. Are you compliant? Well, you might be compliant on that one point, but that doesn't mean you're compliant on the rest of it. So I can't really answer that question. As I said, you'll feel free to reach out to me. My email address is on screen now. We can discuss a bit more and point you in the right direction for where you can get.
The other thing I would add to that is that if you are printing out slips from a card terminal, unless you're seeing customers face to face, there's really no need to have a card machine. We've got, I say, the Blink demo. I know it was very short. We can do a longer demo for you. You can get rid of the machine, have a cloud-based solution where there's no slips, and you can send out pay links. Or if you're taking payments over the phone, it's all done digitally, and it's a much cleaner, better way to do it. So a much better solution, as well as potentially much more secure as well.
Okay, next one, which has come in, it says a lot of my clients are aged and do not own a computer. Yeah, that is something which we've discussed. A lot of people SMS, they can do. If they don't have any computer, then you are taking it over the phone. Like Ben mentioned, the solution is a virtual terminal. If you are using a card machine, I mean, I would say majority of our clients have stopped using a card machine completely. So it's definitely something to get in contact to see the Blink 360 or just a basic virtual terminal. Someone over here says installments. We won't want that. We just want to collect the amount due. So when Ben was running through the Blink 360, he was just showing you the option that you can do installments. What I would say is, yes, obviously you can send out a pay by link with a one-off payment due, and then it would be captured all in one go. If it is someone who wants to pay monthly, then you just show you the option out there that you can do it in installments. The last question I've got here is, does the broker get a statement? I think we discussed that. Yes, there is a statement. They can track everything. And obviously on the Blink 360, there's definitely an intense analysis and tracking page available for brokers. Other than that, you will get your monthly statements like you currently get from your current provider for the card payments and costs. I guess if anyone's got any other questions, just put it in over here before we go so we can sort of cover everything off.
I was just going to say that, Simi. Well done, mate. Yeah, guys, obviously we're just coming to the end of the presentation now. So if you do have any further questions, I would suggest either take a note of the gents' email addresses. If there's anything you've missed, the presentation will be on the BIBA website very soon. But that was really informative, chaps. You've certainly opened my eyes to card payments, so thank you for that. Is there anything else? I'm just scanning the screen just in case anything does drop into the chat or the Q&A, but it doesn't look like it. Is there anything else you'd like to add, guys, before we finish?
From our point of view, there's not a lot else to add. I mean, so this is our industry, so we can probably talk about it all day for hours on end. If there are areas you want covered either privately or you think it's worth doing a general webinar on, then we can do that. Obviously, we're available for that, and we generally run the webinar events quite often on card security and some of the products we offer. Not through BIBA, but general array of merchants. So just again, drop us a line, and we can include you on any further webinar email updates.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you very much. Rafi or Simi, anything else you'd like to add, guys?
No, I'm good. Thank you. But as I said, any questions, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, not from me. I think it's pretty straightforward. I think the main point which we wanted to drive home was, the more we speak to brokers, we saw the physical card machines and the face-to-face environment shouldn't be used. Really important, that point. And the PCI, I think there's a lot more to it as well, which definitely contact Rafi to find out more about.
Super. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Neil.
First webinar of the year done and dusted. So Juliet and I have probably got another 60 of these. But boys, that was really informative. Thank you so much for your time. A happy new year to you all. Just keep safe. Obviously, we're going to get through this madness at some point, aren't we? So thank you for today. Excellent. And we'll see you all very soon. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot. Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.